Zrubavel Gilad was a Hebrew poet, editor and translator. Biography. Gilad was born in 1912 in Bender, Bessarabia, and his family fled to Odessa during World War I. After the Russian Revolution, they moved to Mandate, Palestine. In 1924, they settled in Ein Harod, where he lived until his death in 1988. He was one of the first children in the kibbutz. Gilad began to publish stories in 1929 and poetry in 1931. He published articles in most newspapers and magazines in Israel. He was active in getting young members of the cooperative agricultural communities of the Jezreel Valley to participate in Hanor Hayovd youth movement activities. He was secretary of the Central Committee of the movement between 1933 to 1935. Many of his poems were published in the movement's newspaper Bamale. In November 1937, he was sent to Poland to work with the pioneering movement Hefalutz, returning home in 1939. Gilad was one of the first members of the Palmach, and one of its poets. He wrote the Palma Anthem in 1941. In 1946, he participated in the Night of the Bridges at the Sheikh Hussein Bridge, and was arrested 2 weeks later in the Black Shabbat, spending some time in British jails. Between 1950 and 1953, he worked on the Palmach book, an anthology he edited with Matti Megd. It is considered one of the most important anthologies of the time. He was the editor of the HaKibbutz Hamuhad magazine Mebufnim for many years and a senior editor in the movement's publishing house. In his later years, after the death of his first wife, he married the Israeli literary scholar and a translator Dorothea Kruk-Gilead, who translated many of his poems into English. In 1990, his autobiography Mayan Gideon was published. Individual poems he wrote have been published in Danish, French, German, Hungarian, Russian, Serbo-Croatian and Spanish. Awards. Gilad won many awards for his literary achievements. These include the following: the Prime Minister's Award for Literature, the Bialik Prize for Literature in 1981. Books published in Hebrew. Youth, Bamale, 1936. Springs, Dava, 1939. The Gilboasites, HaKibbutz Hamuhad, 1943. The Magic Spike, HaKibbutz Hamuhad, 1949. The Palmach, HaKibbutz Hamuhad, 1950. Tunes in the Storm, HaKibbutz Hamuhad, 1946. The Beehive and the Lady Queen, Hamovd, 1946. Secret Shield, The Jewish Agency, 1948. A Legacy of Heroism, Kiryat Sefer, 1948. Pines in Bloom, HaKibbutz Hamuhad, 1950. The Palmach Book, HaKibbutz Hamuhad, 1953. Conversation at the Beach, HaKibbutz Hamuhad, 1954. The Green River, HaKibbutz Hamuhad, 1955. The Small Rabbit, HaKibbutz Hamuhad, 1957. A Drop of Dew, HaKibbutz Hamuhad, 1958. Shining Dust, HaKibbutz Hamuhad, 1960. The Upper Sea, HaKibbutz Hamuhad, 1966. Returning Light, HaKibbutz Hamuhad, 1970. Green Tunes, HaKibbutz Hamuhad, 1972. In the Valley of Shiloh, HaKibbutz Hamuhad, 1974. Coals of Juniper, HaKibbutz Hamuhad, 1980. The Well, HaKibbutz Hamuhad, 1983. The Mountain Light, HaKibbutz Hamuhad, 1986. The Shade of the Fig Tree, HaKibbutz Hamuhad, 1988. Books in translation.